Since I went absolutely wild in the last installment and didn't have time to cover this, I figured why not make it the intro to this one? Here are some pretty shots from Rise of the Old Masters. Literally some of my favorite shots in the whole show. Okay, now let's do breaking ranks. Hello everybody, welcome back to Rebels Revisited. If you made it through the last one, if you managed to follow it at all, I applaud you. I really do. But enough of that, it's time for a new episode. Breaking Ranks Revisited. You know, I feel like I like this episode more than most people do. I like the inside look it gave us into the Empire. I like the characters that were introduced. I really liked seeing Ezra on a solo mission. Jai Kell and Zara Leonis did not have to be as engaging as they were, but Greg Wiseman went and did that anyway. They weren't boring, flat characters. Like, they had personalities, they had lives outside of the episode. They even had growth just within those 22 minutes. Zara in particular is interesting to me. I never actually looked into what happens in his junior novel series. I don't know, maybe I should, but even if you didn't know he had expanded material, you can tell that there's more potential for him than just being a character in one episode of Rebels. Like, I love the part where Jai is being difficult about Zara and Ezra's little resistance, and Zara says, "Kel, you got a family?" Like, that's a great character moment right there. You hear how he says it, and you're like, ah, dude's been damaged. And the whole conflict where he's on his own mission to find his sister, who he thinks was taken by the Inquisitor, that's so interesting. No wonder he has a life depicted outside the show. You can tell there's more there. He really adds an interesting layer to this episode. And while I'm on Jai and Zare, the camaraderie between them and Ezra is so fun to watch. I don't know, I just like the way they have fun together and banter with each other. Like the line that goes, "Today I can taste victory. You said that yesterday and you went hungry." I love stuff like that. I would like to point out how the episode demonstrates the differences between the Empire and the Rebellion. I really love Star Wars media that does that, where we're shown how the Empire and the Rebellion function so differently as far as values go. Like Oresco says to the cadets, "There is no friendship in war. The only thing that matters is victory. Victory at any cost." Not even halfway through season 1, and we've already seen on a personal level by observing the Ghost Crew that the Rebellion is the complete opposite of that. I always love seeing situations that compare Star Wars' bad guys with their good guys. Kind of random, but it just made me think of this. There were some really great points in the second season of Resistance that remind me of this. Live Fire comes to mind. Anyway. When presented with this juxtaposition, I always like to think that that's why the Rebels won and the Empire lost. The Empire functioned on a cold, brutal, power-hungry value system, but the Rebels were all about friendship and justice and teamwork and love. I would like to think that they won because of those things. I think it could work that way in a space fantasy. And honestly, everything about the training reflects the Empire's values. The cadets were encouraged to push their friends down to help themselves. They electrocuted kids. The whole thing had the ulterior agenda of trying to find kids that were so good that they had to be force sensitive so they could be turned over to the Inquisitor. We don't stand that. Okay, it was really sweet how Kanan was so worried about Ezra. He darn near lost his mind when Ezra wasn't coming back with Zeb. He had to be away from his boy for weeks for Ezra to pull off this mission, and he's not having it anymore. It really warms my heart to see how he feels so protective of Ezra. He's just a space dad trying to make it in the galaxy. And now for my 2 obligatory items of business. This looks pretty. And another account of Chopper the murder droid. Alright, and of course I have to talk about Ezra in this episode. I like him to see him work on his own. He's quite capable. He works really well without his team because that's what he's used to, and I like that we get to see that. But while seeing him on a solo mission, we also get to see how the Ghost Crew has already changed him as a person because he naturally makes friends, and he even goes out of his way to help them. He has a great line that goes, "The old me never stuck his neck out for a stranger. Clearly I've spent way too long with you heroes." Aww. It's interesting because putting Ezra in the middle of the Empire shows us the juxtaposition between the Empire and the Rebellion like I was talking about before. The Empire is soulless and encourages selfishness and cruelty. In the middle of that environment, Ezra displays opposite values. The values of the Rebellion that the Ghost Crew instilled in him. I really love seeing how they're a positive influence on this kid who just needed some guidance, even though they haven't known each other for that long. And lastly, the ending really warms my heart. Ezra says, "Forgot what it was like to be on my own." Kanan says, "You miss it?" And Ezra replies, "No grumpy robots, no smelly Lasats, it's good to be back." After so many years of having a home and a family ripped away from him, Ezra has a home and a family again. Doesn't that just make you smile? And the fact that he was actually able to overcome any fears of attachment he might have had given the circumstances and allow himself to accept them as a family? That's good stuff, you guys. That's good stuff. And that's what I got. I really do like this episode. Actually, back when the show was airing, this was one of my favorites. And when I think back on watching season 1, like as it was airing, watching this episode specifically is one of my most vivid memories. Anyway, solid episode, exciting, characters that were more interesting and vivid than they really had to be, some nice space family moments, an enjoyable time. See you next week, and may the Force be with you always.